Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Close calls, near-death experiences, almost attacked, robbed, murdered, survived a horrible accident, or escaped cannibal kidnappers, etc. I've had lightning strike 10 feet behind my back during a monsoon, been mugged by undercover cops, and even fallen down a chasm in a cave. Shit gets real in Arizona.
I once was coming back from school, and then this guy comes out of nowhere, pulls out a table knife, and threatens to stab me if I don't come with him. So I panic and try to cross the street to get away from him. He grabs onto my backpack so that I don't run away, but I still manage to overcome his grip. I manage to get away and he comes after me, but a white van comes out from the corner full speed and runs him over. The ambulance came, but he died anyways. Apparently he ended up accidentally stabbing himself in the chest when he tried to shield himself from the van.
Riding on the back of my dad's Honda CB360. Dad picked me up on the bike unexpectedly. I am not dressed for riding. T-shirt, shorts, sandals. Just hit 60 miles per hour on the freeway at rush hour, surrounded by trucks. Back tire explodes, sending tire fragments into my body. Still have a couple in my ass. Dad yells fuck and tells me that we are probably done, as in dead. Try to relax my body for impact, scared shitless, but remaining calm as taught. Heart is pounding and I can't feel my fingers or toes. Time is super slow and I'm hyper-aware. Dad is trying to downshift to get us slowed. High-speed wobble is setting in. I can see some gravel that has been kicked up into the highway and we are heading for it. Oh shit. Back tire, rim really, hits gravel. I go flying face first. Helmet is old and came with the bike, faceless. Think goodbye face. Contact is brutal. I slide on my lower face across the asphalt. I was spitting that shit out for months, if not years. Keep rolling and rolling, I have no control. Thankfully, I'm rolling along the freeway, not into it. Finally, it stops, and I sit there for a second, wondering how bad it is. Think of my dad and bolt upright. Bad move, I know. Dad's running up to me, yelling to stay down. I try to talk to him, but my face is too busted up to be understandable. I make the OK sign with my fingers and thumb to tell him I'm okay. Ambulance showed up. A nurse was driving the big white truck that was behind us, and she called the accident in. My dad had fractured a disc in his lower back, so I'm really glad the ambulance was close. My body was covered in road rash. My nose was broken, my elbow chipped, wrist broken. I had a lot of debris embedded in me, and my mouth was too abraded and swollen for me to eat for a couple of weeks. But all in all, not too bad for getting thrown off a bike at 60 miles per hour with very little protection. Helmet was abraded down to the last layer of padding before it would have been my scalp. Thank you, helmet.
I wish I could share your story with every fool that decides not to wear a helmet.
Be around 15. Go have a picnic with friends in the wilderness. Some of us go climbing the mountain while the others roast meat. Everything was wet because the rain fell the day before. We're running up the mountain, everyone goes straight up. I play smartass and try to get through a steep shortcut. Everything is going fine when suddenly I start sliding down. The leaves on the ground are wet and I can't stop myself, grabbing the ground like crazy, but the leaves fell so much that I can't get to it. I'm literally sliding down the mountain and I arrive at the cliff. A horrible dread overtakes me. I sit down and this slows down the sliding speed. There is this tree growing from the cliff. I try to aim at it while still sliding. I manage to do this. I'm shaking with fear now while hugging the tree. I manage to retrace my steps and go after my friends on the path I took. The fall wasn't even that big, maybe 10 meters with a small river beneath. But I would have broken both my legs at best if I fell since the river wasn't deep at all.
Nothing too big but me, 21 at the time, now 22, and my 14-year-old cousin got swept by a current. Saved his life, actually. I'm not a good swimmer and he is horrible at it. It was on a horrible Mexican beach. My cousin was going under the waves and he reached for me. I managed to grab his hand and the water was all the way to my chest. Strong current. Kept trying to hop in 1 foot diagonally, but the current kept pushing me back. There were holes in the sand which I couldn't touch the bottom of. Somehow I managed to get close to some people. I yelled for help about 4 times at a guy who was watching. He finally realized we were getting swept away and walked towards us. I pushed my cousin towards him and he held his hand. Right then the current began to push me back, but with the reach of my cousin and the man combined, I grabbed my cousin's hand and got pulled to safety. Anyways, I'm sure we would have drowned that day. I was more worried about my cousin drowning than about myself. 2 weeks later we were watching the news and all of a sudden, 2 teens drowned at this beach because of a current. We looked at each other and knew that that could have been us. I'm pretty scared of those crazy Mexican beaches now. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. It was kind of my fault because I threw myself on the knee-high waters and felt that the water was strong. Thought it would be fun, so I told my cousin to throw himself too. And so he did. Never knew how to watch out for these currents. Not such an exciting near-death experience or anything, but in my eyes it was one crazy-ass experience.
You two are very lucky. They should have warnings about that area of the beach.
Yeah, very lucky. I always see the current warning signs in all the beaches we go to. Never thought I would ever fall in one, but all I remembered was to not swim against the current, but diagonally. Not sure if that's what saved us, but I'm glad we didn't go way too far in the ocean. I wouldn't be able to swim with my cousin holding on to me. I used to be scared of animals lurking in the ocean, never knew the dangers of the ocean itself. Once I had this thing that kept brushing against my leg. After the 3rd brush, I quickly put my hand in the water and grabbed something. Pulled it out of the water and it was this seahorse-looking thing that was about 1 foot long, yellow and green in color. I quickly tossed it as far as possible and ran out of the water. Never even knew seahorses could be that big.
I like seahorses, but yeah, anything brushing up against me in the water would make me freak out, even if it was harmless. But the real reason I'd be scared to go in the ocean isn't sharks or riptides or sea monsters, but little bastards like this. It's the small, stinging, poisonous things you've got to worry about most.
Yeah, fuck jellyfishes. Over in Mexico on a hidden beach. I went with my cousins and uncle. We went in and saw some little blue thing floating around. Kinda looked like a necklace. My cousin was about to grab it, but I stopped him when I noticed it was a jellyfish. All of a sudden, the whole beach is full of jellyfishes floating toward the shore. My uncle kicked one and it burned the shit out of his leg. Left him a red line. We pretty much got kicked out by those jellyfishes that day. Probably dangerous if someone were to swim into the middle of the pack. There were hundreds of them. And for the guy who posted the seahorse, didn't look much like that. A lot bigger, thicker, and did not have any leaves. I once Googled up giant seahorses and a Lovecraft page showed an image identical to the one I grabbed. Doubt it was some extinct magical seahorse, but it sure was big.
My dad buys a new car, Mercedes CLK 500. Decide to take it for a drive in the country while he is at work. Approaching a straight empty section of road and I am closing in on a truck, so I decide to overtake. Doing approximately 170 kilometers per hour, 105 miles per hour to overtake. Suddenly, a taxi appears out of nowhere in the opposite lane. I am heading straight towards him, and it's too late to brake. Go into slow motion for a split second. Floor it and get through a gap of a few car lengths at best. Look at my speed. Over 200 kilometers per hour, 124 miles per hour. Immediately I get a pain in my kidneys and the base of my skull. Start to feel really weird, depth perception changes, almost like I am stoned. Drive very carefully the whole way home. I wonder if the pain and weird feeling means I actually died or something.
Oh boy. I have a very strange view of life, or what we think is reality, after the unlucky things I've had happen to me and the stupid things I've done. Be 22 in 2010, deployed to Tangi Valley in Afghanistan. Easy-pleasy night patrol earlier in the day. There wasn't anything that unusual, just some failed RPGs from enemies. Picked gunner that night because I hadn't done it in like a week. Here RPG shoot, Ru Ro H. Wasn't really expecting to get hit. You have to understand that 95% of the time, they do not hit anything. I'm not a very lucky guy. Deafening explosion, it always feels like your eardrums explode if you hit an IED or get hit by something relatively big. So I was deaf and flying through the air. Time slowed down, experiencing like 100,000 moments in a second. In the air, I remember thinking, well, they finally got you, Josh. Guess I'm gonna find out if there's an afterlife. Hit ground black. Proceeded to experience almost an identical trip to when I smoked DMT for the first time. Ego death, merging with everything. That indescribably peaceful place. I was everything, never wanting to come back. An excruciating pain in every fiber of my body, and see blurry shapes everywhere. It felt like I had been gone for an eternity. Put in a helicopter, flown back to the forward operating base. Broken pelvis, left arm snapped, both ankles broken and left knee ruined for the rest of my life. Obviously a badass concussion. 18-year-old E2 in the front seat bled to death from an artery in his leg while trapped in the Humvee. The only thing that happened to the driver was getting knocked out. About 3 months before that, I saw another 18-year-old get his head exploded from a recoilless rifle 30 feet from the gate into our fob. Literally 30 feet, man. The fact that they waited until that moment still makes me nauseous. Also been in a motorcycle accident that should have killed me. First and only time I smoked salvia, I had a trip similar to the DMT. Completely unaware of my physical body or that I even existed because I isn't a thing when your ego is gone. But my body started running through a parking lot, spinning in circles as fast as it could while running. This is what my friends that took me to the hospital told me, by the way. But yeah, you guessed it. I ran directly in front of someone driving through the parking lot going about 20 miles per hour. Boom, went a small distance in the air and smacked into the pavement. Laid there for about 5 seconds as my friends were rushing to me, sprung up off the ground, calmly walked over to the edge of the parking lot with gravel and mud, laid down in it and rolled back and forth chanting some unrecognizable nonsense for 8 minutes. Came to looking at my friends with no idea who they were. An ambulance came and they took me to a hospital. Luckily, I didn't damage the person's truck or I would have felt really bad. I'm sure that was a slightly traumatizing experience from his POV. I only talked to him one time. The funny part is that this was in the parking lot of student apartments at my college. Whenever I randomly saw that guy, he would give me the most horrified looks.
On my way home from work, I was T-boned by a car while I was on my motorcycle. I later found out that the woman was drunk and she ran a red light. She hit me. I flew onto her hood and bounced into oncoming traffic. Another car hit me and I was run over. I felt intense pain at first and just laid on the ground. I soon got this feeling of calmness, euphoria even. Maybe it was the shock, not sure. I felt like I was floating, almost the feeling of being very drunk. I started to think about my family and friends. I started to realize that maybe I was dying. Thoughts went through my head. Would it be okay to die right now? Who would take care of my dog? After thinking about who would take care of my dog, all of a sudden I sprung back to life. I got super pissed off. I wanted to kill someone. I slowly got up and made my way to the car that hit me. I somehow got my helmet off and started beating in the window of the car with it. It was at this time I realized that I couldn't breathe. I started to panic and collapsed on the ground. At this point, I started to forget what happened. Supposedly, I got my knife out and started to give myself a tracheotomy. Though I kind of succeeded, it was pointless and didn't help. The ambulance came very shortly after and took me to the hospital. I don't remember the ambulance ride. I woke up in the hospital. I suffered broken ribs, arm, hand, collapsed lung, severe concussion, and some various severe sprains and strains. I still laugh that it was my dog that ended up breaking me out of it all. She really helped my healing process as well. I was devastated when she died this year. I'll miss you, Sophie.
Greentext, because why not? Be 9 years old, cycling from school to home like usual, drive along the road like I was supposed to. Not much car going by because the clock was like 13 o'clock. I have to use a crosswalk to get to the other side of the road. I remember getting this strange feeling, like everything wasn't right. I don't remember checking if there were cars coming from my left side. When I was in the middle of the road, boom! I flew like 8 meters. What just happened? I'm lying on the ground, not feeling any pain. I tried to stand up, but there was a guy beside me saying that I can't stand up. He was the driver who hit me with his car. He called the ambulance and we waited for the ambulance. My father and my mother came to the accident site. Medics, or whatever you call them, loaded me into the ambulance. My dad came to the room with me. The medic gave me some painkillers, which were strong since I almost passed out. The medic left for a moment and I was alone with my dad. Next thing I knew, they were taking me to the hospital. I survived with only a broken leg, which the doctors described as a miracle because the car had the speed of 60 kilometers. Spent a few weeks in the hospital. Nothing special? Okay. About 6 years after the incident, I was home with my father. Father was a bit drunk, and we started to talk about spiritual things. I don't know why that happened. Hey, pal, do you remember when we were alone in the ambulance? Yeah. Do you remember the angel you saw? What are you talking about, Dad? What angel? So you don't remember? When we were in the ambulance, you said something along these lines. Dad? Who is that man watching us? Dad turned his head and saw a man dressed in white clothes. The man didn't say anything. He just smiled at us and disappeared. We both saw an angel in the ambulance, but I just don't remember that.
Be 10 or so. Dad has a Mini Cooper convertible driving up to my grandparents' house with my brother and father in Dad's car, about a 3-hour drive. Lying in the back seat playing with some action figure things. Hear a loud bang and glass shattering. Car starts rolling, rolls about 3 times. Car finally stops, freak out. Wonder what the hell happened. All 3 of us crawl out of the completely totaled car. No cuts, bruises, or any other injuries on any of us. Start to smell gas. Father runs with us to the other side of the highway. Car starts on fire, engulfed within seconds. This is the luckiest day of my life so far. We found out my dad has sleep apnea, so he wasn't sleeping right. He fell asleep at the wheel and hit a semi on the highway, going 75 miles per hour. The window next to my brother's face shattered, and large chunks of glass went into the seat and missed his neck completely. The people in the semi saw the car and they called in a fatal accident to the state patrol. They couldn't believe all 3 of us walked away in perfect condition.
I have 2. First one, be me, be Lumberjack, be in Las Vegas. About 60 feet up in a pine tree where all branches are thin. Don't want to go higher and decide that this is a good place to start cutting. Start cutting about nipple level. Get a nagging feeling that I need to use my backup annoyingly long, cumbersome safety lanyard. Ignore it and continue cutting. Nagging intensifies. Decided to go ahead and do it. As I get myself situated, I hear a pop. Realize that I hadn't cut away some of the branches that cause counterbalance. Top of the tree starts twisting. Oh shy.jpg. Catch a swinging branch with my face. Almost knocks me out of the tree, but the first safety lanyard and convenient branch helps me steady myself. Tree snaps from where I was cutting. As it falls, it slams me in the shoulder, lands on and breaks both the branches I'm standing on and the branch my first safety harness is tied to. Fall. Stop with a jolt as my backup annoyingly long, cumbersome safety lanyard stops me. Now be free, hanging about 50 feet up. The fireman had to come and help me get situated, but I escaped with only minor scratches. Now I never only use one lanyard no matter how annoying the other one is. The second one, be me at a palm tree trim job. Be in the middle of summer in Vegas and hot as hell. The homeowner says she needs to run to Costco and will be back in a while. Whatever, climb up and start cutting. Everything's fine except for the damn heat. Sweating like a pig, start seeing spots. Whatever, I'm almost done with this one. I'll take a break and drink some water before I do the others. Black spots get bigger. Next thing I know, I hear a muffled, "Are you okay? Want me to call 911? I come to, my head is killing me soaked in sweat. The homeowner is at the base of the tree screaming. Limbs feel like jello, but make it down. Tell her to hold off on 911 till after I've had a chance to sit in the shade and drink some water. Do this for like a half hour before feeling well enough to drive. Tell her I'll be back tomorrow and drive home. She said she was gone for over 2 hours, and it usually only takes me about 10 or 20 minutes to get up and cut, so I was hanging there for about 2 hours. I'm just glad I didn't fall out of my harness.
Be 3 hours ago. Wake up to my dog whining the most annoying noise ever. Super mad, like I remember thinking, why am I mad about this? Yeah, he woke me up, but whatever. I'm not going to stay stewing in my room listening to my dog whine. I can't think straight and feel nauseous. Go get up and head to kitchen 2 rooms away. Kick him out the door, not actually kick, but I pushed him out with my foot. As I do, I get a rush of fresh air. Something's off. Exhaust pipe came off the house, and the exhaust from the furnace, including unburnt gas, was filling my house. That feel when I could have turned the oven on and blown up my house. That feel when my lungs and stomach still hurt. The doctor says another hour, I'd be a goner. Sorry for long story and mistakes, I'm still a little fucked up.
Be longboarding with friends. Speedboarding really, 30+ miles per hour every day, and none of that cowardly garbage riding around your neighborhood on flat ground looking like a douche. Go down a nice steep hill, hit a big puddle of water going the speed of 4 Sonics. Hydroplane and luge board. Do like a backflip right onto the back of my head. Skull cracks. This is loud as hell if you can manage to find a video of someone getting a skull fracture. Grand mal seizure. Bleeding from my ears and vomiting blood everywhere. The street was literally stained with my blood for several weeks after. Supposedly was fighting the paramedics when they came. Normal severe head injury stuff end up in SICU at a state hospital. Be in a coma. Have lots of ridiculous dreams, experiences. I don't know, but I have lots of memories of impossible things. Some lady that knew of me but didn't know me personally comes up to the SICU I'm in. Tells my parents she had a dream about me and felt that she had to come tell them. In her dream, I wake, stand up, and thousands of people around me are cheering. I am making a miracle recovery, as doctors like to call it, still leagues smarter than the average cookie.
Yet still not smart enough to wear a helmet.
Joke's on you. I had already ordered one before I had my accident. It came in the following Monday.
And you didn't wait until the helmet came in to go riding, so not smart enough.
I have 2. Nothing too serious, though. I was about 13. My family and I went hiking in North Texas. There was a small rocky hill, so my sister and I decided to climb it. One side was steep, but easy enough to walk on, so we went up that way. Sat at the top for a bit, then decided to leave. She decided to go the way we came, and me, being a dumbass, decided to go another way. So the path I took didn't look too steep, and I just decided to take it easy and go really slow about halfway down. I decided to, once again being a dumbass, run the rest of the way down. I couldn't stop myself and fell. Turns out that the bottom was filled with sharp rocks. Thankfully, the only injuries I got was a scraped knee and a small gash in my hand. Looking back on it now, if I had fallen anywhere else, I probably would have cut up my face and arms or broken my neck. The next one, I was driving my sisters to school. We weren't going fast because we were in a neighborhood. And we rounded a turn and this dude was driving in the wrong lane and we nearly had a head-on collision. Thankfully, he realized and made a sharp turn and only hit a stop sign. No one got hurt, just a little spooked.
Be me 4 years ago. Be in uni in 3rd year. Best friends with this guy who is very bulky and is a boxer too. A great rival of mine in studies. During one of our semesters, the guy asks me about something to tell him. Refuse to tell him. After some days, the result comes and the guy has failed. He entirely blamed me for his failure. Starts shouting at me. I jokingly said that I don't give a damn about his result. Given his angry attitude, he starts beating me with a nearby branch. As I tried to run away from him, he pins me to a wall. Starts choking me with his full force. I couldn't even budge. Vision becomes blurry, and everything starts to get red. I thought that I was going to die. Then I remembered something that my father used to say. Always go down fighting and never give up. I thought I should try once. Gathering all my force, I punched his face. He immediately released me and I fell down and became unconscious. Wake up to a scream. Sees that guy is rolling in pain besides me. Both got taken to hospital. Reports said that I broke his cheekbone. I still feel sad for him because he got bedridden because of me and missed one entire semester. By the way, I am still friends with that guy, and we always laugh recalling that incident. It's horrifying to think that I could have killed him too.
Almost murdered by friend, still friends. Why?
He is a good and funny guy when not agitated, and I just feel kind of opened up and cheerful in his presence.
Be 16. With a severe case of food poisoning. Was literally puking every 20 minutes. Couldn't drink or eat anything. Severe fever and awful headaches. Could not leave bed. Constantly sleeping and having weird dreams. Day 2, I start having hallucinations. Unable to tell dreams from reality. Very sleep deprived. This goes on for about 4 days. Between having all my body fluids drained out, the joint pains and the hallucinations plus lack of sleep, I felt like I was in hell.
Back in July, I decided to commit self-termination. Obviously, it wasn't successful. Before I hung myself, I'd slashed my arms up pretty good. Did a real number. When my roommate came to find me hanging, there was blood everywhere. I was on the ground after that point, gasping for air, crying. When I started to go, it felt much like sleep. I was very comfortable with dying. It felt like I was going to a better place. Anyway, the blackness set in. Tunnel vision. My skin tingled. My face went numb, then warm. Vision melted away. What I saw was a landscape of warm glow. That vanished as well. Suddenly, I was light. I was remembering everything I had done, everyone I'd known. It's pure consciousness. There's nothing else. Like being in a dream state, I guess, only you're in control. And I remember observing a memory of me when I was in 4th grade sitting there in class next to all of my classmates. It was incredibly vivid, as if I was actually there. I was able to go through the entire session of class without a problem before I realized what was actually happening. I remembered, oh yeah, I'm dying. I don't really know who got to me first. Either I came to and ended up destroying some furniture in my effort to break free, or my roommate helped me.
I was alone in Bangkok, waiting for the Indian visa process to be done. During the week, I went to the Indian embassy a couple of times. I mostly went by taxi because screw tuk-tuks. This one time, I jumped into a taxi and asked him to use the meter for the fare. Okay, he said, and started moving. The meter ticked on normally. As we got to the embassy, he pressed a few buttons on the meter, and all of a sudden it showed 4,000 baht. This is like 20 times the cost of the other times I took the taxi. I tell him there is no way I'm going to pay that. I don't even have that much money on me. The Thai taxi driver starts to threaten me and get really aggressive. He clenches his fists and swings at me, but misses. After some screaming, he proceeds to drive the car away from the embassy. The speed is too high to jump off, and I have no idea where we are heading. The taxi driver says we are going to an ATM, and I'm going to withdraw his money. He tells me he has a knife, but I don't see one. I start to think how I'm going to get out of this mess, and I remember I have some American currency on me. I tell him to wait. I have dollars. The Thai taxi driver smiles smugly and pulls over to the side. I throw him a couple of dollars, and as he is trying to figure out how many baht that makes, I open the door to jump out. As I open the door, he floors it, and I throw myself out of the moving car, landing rolling on the sidewalk. He stops the car and gets out, yelling it's too little. He wants more money. I start to run, and he follows me for a block or two, but luckily he's a fat bastard and I can easily lose him. It ended up costing me more than I was supposed to pay in a normal cab, and I got a few bruises on my legs and arms, but I got away with my life and without stab wounds, so I consider myself lucky.
Be 16, 17, leaving a rave in Brooklyn. Fucked up with 2 girls. One is also fucked up still, the other is crashing bad, finding it hard to walk, etc. We stop a block away from the venue to gather ourselves, make sure friend 2 doesn't barf. Hey, plur man. Some random guy wearing some candy. That was nice of him, so I give this fucker a piece of candy, a bracelet. He stops us, tries to offer us cigarettes, chats with us, convinces us to let him give us a ride to the train station. We're fucked up, friend 2 can barely walk. I get in the front, don't want them having to sit with him. Such bad feels. Hyper aware of everything. Starts driving and chatting, finding out where we're from, if we came with anyone, taking random turns around Brooklyn. Hey, wasn't the station over that way? No, we're going to the other station. It's right around the corner. Suddenly very aware of what a bad situation this is, aware of the sweat dripping from his upper lip and how tense he looks. Jesus Christ. Suddenly friend 2 goes, I have a knife in my boot. WTF. Urge him to pull over by acting sick. He doesn't want me to puke in his car, I guess. He pulls over and I look back to friend 1 who grabs friend 2 and pulls her out of the car. Phew. I think we can walk from here, but thanks for the ride. Wait, the train station is just around the corner. Come on, you sure? I didn't even get your Facebooks. Wait, we're almost there. Welp, have a good night. Nope down the street and book it around the corner. Spend the next half hour frantically walking around Brooklyn in the dark, hoping he doesn't reappear. Finally find the train station one stop away from where we started. What a night. The worst part is that I gave that asshole a piece of candy thinking he was just being friendly. Now he probably uses it to get people to trust him. It was a quiet trip out of BK. Nobody knew what to say.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.